Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our final session of the FinTech Summit today. This is part of our Industry City program. This is the final session, the third session, and this session we're going to be looking at the digital assets landscape. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, NTT, and also our supporting FinTech sponsors, WorldPay and Telesign. My name's Brian Gorman, I'm the FinTech lead at the GSMA, and it's really my job just to keep our really brilliant speakers we've got today. Thank you very much for joining us, we really appreciate it. In the session today, we're delighted to kind of explore this theme of digital assets landscapes with three fantastic speakers. Firstly, as you know, the Sandbox is one of the leaders in this space, so we're delighted to welcome the CEO from North America, Mathieu Nouzareth with us today. Similarly, blockchain is, as we talked about in our last session, it's a really area of growing importance now. And one of our partners, Celo Blockchain, are doing some really fantastic projects now. So Julie is joining us to share her thoughts and observations. And also Max is joining us from one of the major telco groups in North America to share their thoughts on the work that they've done to explore this area and start to build some new propositions. So we're delighted to have them all here. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Mathieu up on stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mathieu, the CEO in the US for the Sandbox, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our company, what we're doing and where we're going today. Company snapshot. First of all, I wanted to talk about the metaverse from a business perspective. I'm sure you've read all of those reports. People think it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunities in the next few years. The reason at the end of the day why people think it's such a big market is that more or less everything you do or you see in the real life, you'll have some form of it in the metaverse. So all the businesses will be eventually impacted in the next few years. So what is the Sandbox? Sandbox is a metaverse. It is a 3D virtual space. It has a voxel style. I have a video showing you a bit at the end of the presentation. It's built on the blockchain. So the economic engine is really the blockchain, it's Ethereum. So it's basically at the end of the day, it's a two-sided marketplace between creators on the one hand and users on the other. And creators and users and players, they can work together, they can engage in business together without us being too much involved. We are spending a lot of time attracting content creators. And we're also attracting a lot of brands because we want to bring culture to the Sandbox and to the metaverse in general. It's quite a. We've been pretty successful. I think our token is called the Sand. Is one of the top 30, top 40 token in the world today. Hundreds of millions of dollars are being traded every day on the Sand token. We raised, from a company's perspective, we raised about $100 million last year, mostly from some SoftBank and others. We're in the press, in the news. And all of this, and I can't disclose numbers, what I can tell you that it's already a nine-figure business, the Sandbox. And all of this has been achieved with only a few million people really into cryptos and NFT. It's just the very beginning. So we think that when the market takes off in the next few years, the market is going to be even bigger. We do games, but also we're focusing now a lot on retail. We think the metaverse is the next opportunity for retail and e-commerce companies. Why? It's today, if you want to sell to consumers, you only have really two choices. Either you sell in physical space, which can be very experiential, but also have lots of limitation, in terms of cost and space and location. And the other way to do business is really online on mobile and the web. And the web and mobile is also very transactional by nature. So you just click on a product, put it into your basket, you shop and you buy, and that's it. And I think the metaverse is really a third way, which is really combining the experiential nature of the physical space with the convenience of mobile and web shopping. And you can even go beyond, and you also can create experiences in the metaverse that you really cannot create in the physical world because you have less constraints around physics and cost and location. So I think the metaverse is going to be a very, very big opportunity for retailers. Beyond this, we think, As I said, everything you do in the real world will have a version of it inside multiple metaverses and inside the sandbox. Right now, we have 4 verticals that are doing very, very well. Number 1 is gaming. A lot of gaming companies are entering the metaverse and creating new types of games. Number 2 is art with NFT. So we are very active collaborating with NFT projects. Number 3 is entertainment. That includes music and also movies and TV series. So for the music space, for example, I'm sure you've heard about our deal with Snoop Dogg. It's been very successful. We're organizing virtual concerts. We're dropping avatars of the artist, and we're signing a lot of very big names in the space. And number 4, surprisingly today, is fashion and digital fashion. We have a deal with Gucci, and we're signing more deals with other big luxury and fashion companies around the world. And why? It's because, like in the real world, fashion is part of your identity, and it's the same. It is the same in the metaverse and in digital space. People are ready to spend a lot of money, for buying sneakers and T-shirts and hats and this kind of thing that really, differentiate you from others. So it's doing very, very well. That's what we have today, and ultimately we think all verticals, every industry will be impacted, not to the same extent. For example, I'm sure you won't go to a restaurant in the metaverse. You will go to a physical restaurant, right? But we just announced a deal with Hell's Kitchen, for example, and we're going to bring Hell's Kitchen inside the sandbox. So you will find ways to have everything from the real world really be in the metaverse. And then you can have real estate, sports, social, activities, dating, everything. So yeah, everything will be impacted. And just a few TAM is total addressable market, just for a few of those industries in the US, and you see why it's so big. So grabbing just a few percentage of these markets in the metaverse is going to be already very, very big. And the way we like to think of the sandbox is that we believe in a multi-metaverse world. A lot of people, when I say metaverse, a lot of people immediately think of this movie Ready Player One, if you've seen this movie, which is a bit nightmarish dystopian. One company controls everything. And we hope it's not going to be that. We hope it's going to be multiple of small metaverse cooperating, working together. We are working a lot on interoperability with other NFT projects, other metaverse. And I think the way to look at metaverse is more like cities rather than countries or world. And some cities, will cooperate with one another, and some cities will be more successful than others. So our goal at the Sandbox is we don't want to be the only one, but we want to be the most exciting metaverse out there, or one of the most exciting metaverse. Very much like big cities. You may have heard about this concept there is a concept called global cities in the world. 5 cities qualify: LA, New York, London, Paris, Tokyo, and they have a critical mass of political power, economy, fashion, artists, and interesting people, and that's what we're doing with the Sandbox. We aim to be one of the most exciting and most interesting places where people can go. We have 166,000 lands, so the Sandbox is based on the concept of virtual land, and we have a finite amount of land, 166,000 plot. Every plot is about 2.5 acres, seen from an avatar's perspective. So altogether, the Sandbox is about the size of Los Angeles, to give you an idea. If you wanted to walk around, it would take some time, but it's not massive. But we're really attracting all those brands and artists and people inside the Sandbox. So all those people, just a few names that we're working with, the partners we're working with, including fashion, gaming, retail, even finance. We have a lot of diverse partners from around the world. And I think this one just wanted to show that we've become last year the biggest Web3 metaverse by land sale in terms of revenues, and we're still doing very, very well despite the market being a bit less hot than the beginning of the year. So that's it for me. I have a video showing you what it is. So that's it. Go to sandbox.game today. You can play. It's free, and you can try for yourself. Thank you.
So for our next presentation, delighted to invite Julia up onto the stage. Julie's from Celo Blockchain, and she's going to talk about kind of the great work they're doing for kind of social good. So Julia, you're most welcome.
So hi everybody. Delighted to be here today talking about this topic. As Brian was saying, I'm the global head of Telecom and Media Partnerships for C-Labs, working on Celo. So we are framing the discussion in the context of driving new growth opportunities for the telco industry. And a key question that's been raised is how are telcos going to position themselves and the role on Web3 and the metaverse. So Celo is a blockchain designed for mobile. And I'm going to give you an overview of how Celo can be one of the blockchains that is used to launch interoperable competitive services for businesses and consumers. So I'm going to tell you what Celo is, what are the key features that make it interesting for the telco industry, what's the market opportunity, what are the key Web3 use cases that you can launch with Celo, why should you launch some services on the same blockchain as opposed to each of you using different ones, so to ensure the success and interoperability of your products, and finally, our vision to work with you. So what is Celo? Celo is a mobile-first layer 1 open-source public proof-of-stake blockchain that is a fork of Ethereum, and therefore very close to the Ethereum ecosystem that links mobile phone numbers to blockchain addresses, allowing to easily send digital assets from mobile number to mobile number. This mobile identifier of Celo, it's a very powerful feature for the telco industry that allows effectively the mobile number to become your wallet and to link to it all sorts of authentication and FinTech mobile applications such as remittances, payments, rewards, and metaverse use cases. And the other interesting aspect of Celo is that it's mobile first. We've developed a light client that can run on low-cost smartphones and even feature phones. And this is interesting when working with developing countries. And for remittances, for example, we start in developed countries, but we end up in developing markets. And besides these, Celo technical features are extremely competitive versus traditional fiat rails to handle payments and money transfers. So as you've heard before, with blockchain, we achieve a much faster, it's 2.5 seconds on average to complete a transaction, much cheaper, $0.001 per transaction, irrespective of the amount sent. So you can build more profitable business use cases on top of Celo blockchain. It's global and easy. Sending digital assets globally is as easy as sending a text message anywhere in the world. It's highly scalable, and being a fork of Ethereum, it's programmable money that would allow you to access the most advanced FinTech innovations. And Celo is green. It's been designed and programmed to have a positive effect on the environment. It's proof of stake that consumes very low energy. A Celo transaction consumes about 8 times less energy than a simple Google search. And besides this, Celo automatically offsets the carbon emissions of every transaction, leaving behind an automatic carbon negative footprint. Also, Celo is becoming quickly a hub for regenerative finance, or ReFi, with the launch of the Climate Collective, which is a coalition of companies focused on fighting climate change. So that the more you use Celo, the more you are contributing positively to the environment. And this would help also telcos and all the companies that are caring about the environment right now to achieve their own sustainability targets. But what's the market opportunity? What are the key Web3 use cases? Well, first of all, despite the current market context that we all know, the fundamentals of Web3 remain. Despite the war, the inflation, the potential of this technology is unchanged. It's a more efficient, cheaper, faster, better technology for financial services that it's enabling the introduction of very disruptive business models for every industry. Within telco, you, for example, would know of Helium, that's to become the largest IoT and fastest growing network in the US within just a few years. But there are many other examples. ClearX, then Skye Gane, and more that will come. Here we have a chart showing how crypto adoption has been tracking internet user adoption in the same period back in the 90s. And forecast by the largest investment banks, the Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, Citibank, predict 5 billion users by 2030. Those figures might be slightly delayed due to the current market context, but in any case, the figures are enormous. What this means is that we are at the beginning of a huge wave of growth and innovation. And it is because we are still at the beginning that telcos have still a window of opportunity to position themselves as the distribution channel for Web3 services to the mass market. That is through the launch of a wallet that can serve as the distribution platform for multiple consumer Web3 use cases. If we compare to the most popular wallets right now, for one use case, which is digital asset trading, you have MetaMask and Coinbase. They have 30 to 90 million customers, and any of telco footprints are much larger than that. So if telcos are ready with the right product for when the next wave of growth arrives, they could easily become leaders in this space and capture this enormous growth. So what are the most interesting use cases that you can unlock with Celo? Well, on B2C, we consider first that the wallet is the door for telcos to enter Web3, from where to offer a number of consumer financial services. And here in this region, in the US and in Latin America, there are two very clear use cases that you can monetize from day one. The first one is remittances, which is a $150 billion market. And the second one is digital asset trading, which will include things like NFTs. So we can support you in launching both of those services with a proposition that covers both crypto and fiat in a way that if you're not ready to send crypto to a certain jurisdiction, we can support sending fiat and then switch to crypto as soon as that jurisdiction is ready. So you can take the full advantage of their technology at any given moment. There are other B2B use cases, such as roaming settlements, IoT, micropayments, and also infrastructure use cases that have been mentioned before, like validators. Telcos are very well positioned to launch blockchain validators. But I want to focus on the consumer side of the proposition, which I think is very relevant for this region. So, as I said before, we would want to see Celo as one of the blockchains integrated within your wallet so that the customers are able to conveniently send digital assets from mobile number to mobile number cross networks, cross telcos. Here we also support some of the previous comments about collaboration in the industry to establish interoperability of services that would allow the industry to become more relevant. So they would allow to offer cross-network remittances and also digital asset trading with things like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and NFTs. Then you can build your own business models and have complete control over the customers and pricing, with the structure that you place on top of Celo and Ponto fees, which are very low. So you can have higher margins on all of those business cases. You can also earn yield rewards on crypto assets that can be linked to build interesting loyalty programs. And integrating carrier billing is a service that has also an amazing unlocked potential for the telco industry, as has been mentioned in the previous panels on payments. Also, the wallet can be used for identity authentication and Web3 and metaverse applications. And I want to just show a chart of how big the opportunity for just remittances is in this industry. As you can see, it's a $150 billion market, 72 billion of which go to Latin America. And here, Celo, together with Ponto, can provide the technology and the licenses and also the ecosystem of telco partners to ensure the success of the proposition. So our vision is to enable telco Web3 interoperability mobile to mobile and to connect all telcos around the world. Just like telcos can perform calls globally thanks to roaming agreements, Celo and Ponto can be the platform that enables interoperability of payment and remittances globally mobile to mobile. Not only on B2C, but also on B2B, working anywhere in the world. And another benefit of working with Celo is that you are working with an open source blockchain, and you would have access to a very large and diverse innovation ecosystem of communities and businesses that have launched and are operating on the blockchain on Celo. And you would be able to easily integrate those services within your wallet, Celo's services that may have proven to be successful on the Celo innovation ecosystem, with which you can partner, white label, co-invest. So the feedback that we've received from our telco partners is that you want us to provide the appropriate banking licenses. You want to see money flows with KYC, AML validated by your legal teams, and you want a wallet that provides a superb customer experience. And this is exactly what we're aiming to provide. Celo and Ponto are working with telcos to provide a full end-to-end solution, providing licenses, global interoperable wallets that allow to send digital assets from mobile to mobile anywhere in the world, and a global cash-out network from crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto. It's this combination of technology, low-cost technology and licenses that greatly reduces the traditional barriers of entry that telcos have faced in the past to enter FinTech, and also, as echoing the comments in the previous panel, I think it's never been a better time for telcos to enter this space. It offers an unprecedented opportunity to generate high new revenue at low cost as you're leveraging existing infrastructure licenses and innovation ecosystems, as well as faster time to market. Then finally, the future of blockchain is multi-chain, and you may be working with multiple blockchains, but to establish interoperability of services, you need to start working on a common platform somewhere. So we suggest that Celo and Ponto characteristics and mobile identifier makes us an ideal interoperable platform for the telco industry to provide crypto and fiat services at extremely competitive pricing. So you can launch those propositions very profitably from day one, and from there expand to other Web3 interesting services. So we are here to help. Please come and discuss further. And this is it. Thank you very much.
Super, thanks Julia. And so we're going to move on to our panel discussion now. And I'd like to welcome Mathieu back on stage, but also to introduce Max Frause from T-Mobile, Senior Director in T-Mobile, to join our panel also. Max, perhaps if I could take a moment, or give you a moment to introduce yourself and the T-Mobile.
Yeah, thanks Brian. Max Frause from T-Mobile. I sit in our corporate strategy department. Spent the first few years actually driving our digital transformation and leading some of our strategic partnerships. But the last probably 6 to 9 months, we've really started to look into what can we do in the Web3 and blockchain space, given that it's so early, as Julia's chart pointed out. What if we could have done that in 1997 as a telco? What would we have done differently, and how can we think about being a part of the community that comes together as this transformation takes place?
So take me back to kind of there was a day that you heard of the metaverse, and what does T-Mobile? What process do you go through to start to figure out what it means to the T-Mobile and its customers? How does that work?
Yeah, I think we took kind of a 3-phased approach. One was to look at the macro trends out there. I think one of the charts Julia showed was, hey, it's really early, but it's faster growing than the internet was in those days. The other is actually looking at developers, and most of the good developers out there are starting to shift over and starting to develop in the Web3 space. How can we start to play in that space in order to connect there? And obviously funding, we've seen massive skyrockets of funding over the last 3 years as well. The second phase is to really look at the partner landscape in all of the community out there, talking to the celos, the sandboxes, and other kind of exchanges of the world, and getting a feel for how these partners are going to come together, because this isn't going to be one company that builds this. It's going to be a whole collective of companies that come together to build all these new things. And the third really is looking at what we've done internally. And while our advanced technology team has done some research on more of the infrastructure side of the house, we took a look at what our parent company, Deutsche Telecom, is doing as well. They've done actually quite a bit with becoming validators and a bunch of platforms, and we want to make sure that we partner together in that in order to shape the future as well.
Super, thank you. Thanks, Max. Matthew, if I can come to you. So how did it start? Where did Sandbox start? When you started as a small team, you obviously had a vision, but what was it at that time? Because it was so nascent?
Yeah, I mean, Sandbox is an overnight success that took like maybe 10 years in the making. So the company started actually in 2012 by doing mobile games for iPhones and Android. Yeah. And then in 2018, it's a long story, but they decided to refocus on building only a metaverse on the blockchain. And that's why we are ahead today, is because we started 4 years ago. Yeah. When crypto gaming wasn't even a thing at the time, it was also another crypto winter in 2018. So I think it's always better to start, at the bottom, so just ride the wave on the way up.
But what did you see though? Because that's obviously a big decision to do that, and quite some risk associated with it.
Yeah, I think we saw the potential to disrupt You have a lot of Web 2 metaverse companies today doing very, very well, and Roblox and Minecraft and a lot of other companies, and they're doing very well, the great products, but we felt the blockchain was bringing an opportunity to give power back to the creators and back to the users and to the players. So ourselves, for example, our commission rate is only 5%, okay? We give 95% back to the creators, and we felt this was a tremendous opportunity to build a new type of business and interaction between people. Yeah.
So a year ago, because it was about September, October last year when I'd say, everybody else started talking about the metaverse. How wide was your smile? You must have been...
Facebook rebranded as Meta. Indeed. That was very good for us, like everybody else in the industry. Yeah. No, that was a good time. I just hope that, as I was saying, it's not going to be a one winners take all market. I hope it's going to be multiple metaverse companies working together. Yeah. And that's a fundamental difference of Web3 as opposed to Web2. Web3 is really, it's not a winners, it's not a zero-sum game. Yes. Web2 is very much a zero-sum game. Coming from Web2, and I know what it's like, and Web3, it's you create value by working with others, including competition.
Thank you. Julie, if I could come to you, I'm just going to read the words to make sure I got them right, but Celo confirms its mission as, quote, to build a financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for everyone. So what's the thinking behind it? What does that look like?
Yeah, the Celo founders are very mission driven, and when they were designing the Celo protocol, they were reflecting on what are the features of money that could make the world a better place. What could crypto and Celo do, with its programmability and its creativity to contribute to alleviation of poverty and to fighting the climate crisis. So one of the first things that they decided to do is to create a mobile-first blockchain, because 50% of the population is unbanked in developing markets, but 93% owns a mobile phone. So therefore, and so that that is basically for financial inclusion, and also with the view of being able to send money to those communities in the middle of Venezuela or Colombia, $3. It's currently impossible through the traditional remittance rails and banking, but with blockchain and stable coins, that $0.001 per transaction, that's really economically viable. So that's what they focused on making basically a blockchain that would allow remittances and payments at a very, very low cost.
And so that's a really powerful proposition. So does that mean that when you're working with new partners, to Matthew's point, or working on new propositions, they're always tested against that vision? Is that how it works?
Yeah, the blockchain itself, or the Celo Foundation, are very focused on very much on the mission, so
Yeah.
on helping poor communities and UBI protocols and a lot of that.
Yeah.
My focus is working with corporates.
Yes.
So I have slightly different view. I go and say, okay, look at this fantastic low cost platform and use it to your advantage.
Okay.
You know, for profit,
Yeah.
right? To build interest, because it's so inexpensive, you can build interesting, profitable business models on top.
Right. So that mission itself has created some kind of capability for you then to take and build commercial propositions on?
Yes, because not everybody's looking, you know, so there is organizations such as Mercy Corps or, you know, a lot of the big American charities that are working with Celo to deliver money around the world, because also it ensures that there is no fraud or middleman that is getting the money in between. You know, it goes straight to the communities, and that's what they focus on.
Super, thank you. Max, if I can come to you, you're in strategy, so you'll know this, but forgive me, I can't remember. There's a concept called the hype curve. Who's I can't remember who's got. I forget who it is, but the reason I mention it is when you started that process, how do you make sure there isn't a feeling that it's just another technology hype? Because as a business, in an industry, there's a lot of hype stuff going on. So how do you make sure it's really grounded, there's something here and not just hype?
I mean, I think mostly what we want to do and what T-Mobile always looks to do is look after our customers and figure out what are the right use cases for the technology versus just implementing technology for technology's sake. And I think actually the hype going up and peaking and us now being in a bit of a more of a bear market, if you look at a crypto space, is probably a good thing, because it brings in a bunch of regulation, it weeds out a bunch of bad actors, and it actually forces people to build actual experiences like the Sandbox versus solely of speculative financial gain. And I think that has lent us to saying, okay, well now the real building starts to begin. Where can we as a telco start to participate in that? And I think what Mathieu said is right on. Is Web 2 was, you could be one company and own the entire ecosystem if you wanted. And in Web 3, that value chain is going to shift. Whether it gets to be completely decentralized remains to be seen, but it will get to some degree. And so the value chain is going to shift, and telcos have an opportunity to play in that space.
Sure. Oh, so when you finished your review and your strategy, what was the overall conclusion, and what kind of things are you starting to work on that you're able to tell us about?
I think you've heard a lot of them today. It's really, I actually think it's really awesome to hear so much talk of actual financial services and telco kind of starting to bleed together more. Deutsche Telekom's, I think, one of the top 5 validators on the Celo blockchain. They've actually invested in Ponto, which is a financial off-ramp company as well, and made a strategic investment there. And so it's really allowed us to take a look at, okay, are there remittance opportunities for us to take part in? Are there identity opportunities for us to be able to connect our customers to all of these cities that are going to be created over time? And I think that's where we do the best job, is connecting our customers to the internet out there. We've done it through a 5G network that's awesome right now, but we can also layer on services that continue that connectivity layer as well. Okay,
so there's 2 parts to this. There's the connectivity, which is what you do every minute of every day, and then there's a proposition layer, new exciting things that may or may not be relevant. Is that?
Yeah, and I think what you really need to do, and what I'd love to have happen, is us do a bunch of tests and proofs of concepts. We're so early that things will fail, and that's okay. And I think that testing out with small amounts of internal tests, doing small amounts of customers, testing just with partners as well to see who are great partners to work with is super important.
Mathieu, can I ask you about one of the slides you talked about partners? So who's being attracted? Are they the kind of leading innovative brand you'd expect? I mean, what's attracting people, and who are they?
So I was saying, we have gaming, fashion, music, entertainment, and art, and they are very active today. And I think the reason why they're more active than other companies is because traditionally, these type of companies are also they're very good at identifying new consumer trends before everybody else. And I think that's what's happening. They know it's happening, and they want to test, and they want to understand what it's like. That's why they are so active in this space.
So it's quite a broad. I think there was in the film, actually. Sorry, in the film, and Snoop Dogg, tell us about that. How does that work? What is that?
Snoop Dogg was one of our early partner, and we have a multi-year, partnership with Snoop, and basically we are recreating a Snoopverse inside the Sandbox.
Yeah.
He's going to perform in a virtual concert.
Okay.
Soon we dropped what we call Snoop Dogg avatar, so it's like small figurines, digital figurines of Snoop. We had 10,000. We sold them to consumers. It did very well. What happened as well is that so Snoop has a big estate inside the Sandbox. It's pretty large, and we sold adjacent lands to his estate. And it turns out that some people are ready to pay a lot of money to be Snoop Dogg's neighbor. Some plots around him were sold for millions of dollars, for example.
Right. And so when you're working with people like that, what's attracting them to go and explore this area? What do they? Is it a typical brand extension? I can take.
I think it goes beyond a brand extension. Most of the partners we work with, they really want to set up shop in the metaverse, and they want to create a business. And they want to go beyond just doing marketing. They want to interact with their audience, with their users, their clients, and they want to really do something. So selling stuff or providing services.
Right. And clearly, at the heart of that is a way to actually monetize it as well.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Exactly.
It's really to make money.
Yeah. Thank you. And Julie, so for Celo now, what kind of projects are you working on? What are the kind of things that you're exploring?
Yeah, so leveraging on the low cost of Celo, we're working on remittance with corporate partners such as telcos, from developed to developing country propositions. There is also on the B2B side, there's an exciting IoT micropayment proposition. There's also interest in loyalty points for loyalty programs. And then there's a ton of work on the green space where Celo is becoming a reference for regenerative finance. A lot of assets, carbon credits, tokenization of forest lands, and offsetting of carbon emissions for corporates in a transparent way.
Okay.
All of that is really big on Celo.
And so that's part of what a corporates now. It's part of their agenda. They're looking for opportunities to.
There's a lot of investment in that space. Yeah, there's a lot of going on in Celo. That's a big area. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Max, you mentioned in your introductory session, you talked, and I think Mathieu did also, you talked about standards. So what do you see from Telco's perspective? What do you see is going on, and how can you see that kind of working going forward?
Yeah, I think there's a big opportunity still. I think as you see, most of decentralized apps, all these things have been built for desktop really, and I think mobile is still a nice future for us to help build together. But I think interoperability is the key word that we've heard throughout the day. Yeah. And it's not kind of setting a standard and then having everybody flock to you. It's having it be a community standard that other parts of the infrastructure can talk together with. And so I think because we're so early, we can all come together as a whole bunch of partners and competitors and agree on that. And that's not just mobile network operators, right? It can't be, because that's the standard for connectivity for networks, but it's not to plug into the metaverses and other Web3 applications.
Thank you. Mathieu, if I can build on Max's point, because again, I think it was in your slides, you talked about being a leader in open standards. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more for us?
So we work with sometimes competitors or partners in trying to be interoperable. So that means, for example, if you have collected a 2D picture NFT in your crypto wallet, if you log into the Sandbox, we will automatically transform that into a 3D avatar. It's just one example, but we're working very hard with partners to be interoperable. And being interoperable means you have to use standard.
Yes.
And it's ERC 720 in the case of in our case, but there are other standards being developed, and I think it's pretty important to achieve the success of everybody.
And when you say you're a leader, does that mean you're part of a group and you're
we took part in the NFT standard.
Okay.
And we're working in different groups today to coming on the next standard as well.
Okay. And so if as a consumer, how would that impact me? What would that mean?
That means that you can know that if you buy an NFT somewhere, you can use it into Sandbox, or if you buy something into the Sandbox, it doesn't belong to the Sandbox. It belongs to you, and you can take it to wherever you want to take it. It could be to a competitor, it could be to something else.
Right.
There's also composable, so you could buy an avatar from the Sandbox, and you could, if you build on a standard, you could, buy like wearables from another, another website or another metaverse, and you could combine them, for example.
And where are we on that journey now?
It's just the beginning,
right?
But we are very active, and we're already working with, I think, around 15 NFT projects at the moment.
Okay. To
be interoperable.
So it sounds like there's a technical specification to design an NFT. And
it's already the case today.
Oh, okay.
But I think we can go further than that what we have today. But it's already there today. The being interoperable is already happening.
Oh, right. Can you elaborate? How does that work at the moment?
It's just built on. I mean, in our case, we're using the Ethereum blockchain.
Yes.
And everything that's built on this is compatible with us. So
an
NFT at the end of the day is just think of it as metadata.
Yeah.
So it reads like attributes and everything. So anyone can read it and rebuild it if they want. You don't need to ask for permission to the Sandbox. So if you buy an NFT from us, it's compatible with everything that is compatible with Ethereum.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Julie, tell us more about what's next for Celo. Then what's next?
Yeah. So. I personally work with the telco industry, right? So what I want to ensure is that telcos work on winning propositions. So we know the future of blockchain is multi-chain. So what we try to address is one piece of the puzzle of their interesting proposition. So we are compatible with Ethereum, for example, but we work with a partner which is Ponto, which is working also to ensure the interoperability of things like metaverses, right? So not only with Ethereum, but also closed metaverses like Meta or Netflix or whatever comes up, and that customers can have that kind of digital assets in their wallet in an interoperable way, and they can perform payments, and they can, and that might be enabled by Celo, which is great for payments and etc. So we provide one piece of the puzzle of the proposition, and that's what I focus on. And then within Celo, there's an awful lot, as I said, on refi. There's a huge focus on climate, and also on financial inclusion, right? On that. So
if you take the sector that you mainly operating in, which is it's telco sector, for example, where is the telco as a sector on engaging, participating in digital assets? How would you rate it? Where are we?
I think there's a huge amount of interest, and starting in exploration and testing, and my huge focus is on establishing that ecosystem of partners so that they work together. Because we're not an industry that it's typically great at collaborating, but I believe that if we are going to make something successful, we have to, as I think the QR code person was saying before, we need to work together.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Ling Wu or Wei Li? Oh, yeah.
Ling Wu. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
And Max, so what Julia says about kind of it's early days, people are trying to figure out. That would be typical of telcos trying to, with a full roadmap for the next 18 months of really important projects to land, new technology, how do I fit it in? I'm not quite sure where it's going. That would just be the classic challenge that strategy group has.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge we face too. And I think what needs to happen in this space is likely not us building it ourselves, right? It's actually partnering with different layer 1 chains, with different actual kind of Web3 applications, with different metaverses to bring them together versus the telcos actually building something by themselves. That's not how this is going to work. So I actually think that pivots the kind of capital opportunity or necessity to go through the traditional kind of process that you would to build new technology in the space.
Yeah. Is it as simple as saying that at the moment it's people who are participating are early adopters, that's what they do, whereas you've got to design for the next wave when everybody comes along?
And I think that's where we think telcos and T-Mobile can be a really important bridge between what is currently Web 2 and everybody knows how to use all the apps on their phone and use their web browser on their computer. But people don't know how to download a MetaMask wallet and memorize all 12 words and like all of these types of things. Yeah. And so the customer experience needs to get a lot better. And I think as mobile phone operators can be in a unique position to help with that in a part of the way, not the entire way, but in a part of it.
Fantastic, thank you. Matthew, for you, fantastic presentation, love the video. What would be a good next 12 months? What's a good year for you?
So for us, we're still in alpha mode, even so we have millions of accounts that have been created inside the Sandbox. So the next 12 months for us is opening the game 24/7, coming soon. Okay. Keep growing nicely, provide more content, having more partners.
And it sounds like we were talking before, you came from a presentation yesterday, you're here today, you've got another one tomorrow, so it sounds very much like...
The metaverse is still, and interestingly enough, the Web3 or the crypto space, we're in a bear market, but there is no such thing for the metaverse. Everyone is still interested in the metaverse, right? Including big companies
Yeah, fantastic, thank you. And Julie, for you, a good next 12 months would be?
Yeah, no, I think that the current market context with the war, the inflation, everything, it's creating economic challenging situations that even will push further corporates to work with the most cost-effective, efficient propositions, right? And that's going in the direction of blockchain. So, as I see it, there's a huge amount of interest, and the development will follow that path for sure, and our focus is about the ecosystem of partners, really.
It sounds like you feel we're on the cusp of something.
Sorry?
It sounds like you feel we're on the cusp of something really big's coming down.
Yep.
Max, for you and T-Mobile, 12 months in this space, what would be a good year?
Yeah, I'd love to see us get a few proof of concepts in market and start to reach customers that aren't engaged in the crypto community or the metaverse community, and start and actually disguise some of the complexity there, and bring a few interesting use cases, whether that's with identity or remittances. We're not quite sure yet, but we do think there's some unique trials that we can do.
Fantastic. No, thank you. Well, we're out of time, but big thanks to Max, Julia, and to Matthew, if we may. Thank you very much.